Welcome. Today I want to give you a quick overview about GitHub repositories. So what is a repository? So a repository is the place that contains all of your code, source code, your files, and each file's revision history. You can discuss and manage your work within the repository. It's the most basic element where you can store your code. So let's talk about some important terms about the repository. The first term is branch. So you can see here I have this repository open, and right here you can see I clicked on the branch. So you have your main branch, or it's also called master branch, and then you can create your branches that you would work in for any features, bug fixes, and then the changes you would make would be merged back to your main branch after code review or PR review. So you can see main branch and then all the other parallel branches. If I click on this button, you would be able to see the list of all branches as well. And from here, you can see you can delete a branch, and you can see the activity on the branch. You can create new pull requests. You can view all the rules, and you can rename the branch as well. Great. So now that we know what a branch is, let's talk about clone. So to download a full copy of a repository's data from GitHub, that's what is called a clone. So it would include all the versions of every file and folder, and you would have to set up a SSH key in order to not clone. But once you have cloned it down, and if you want to start contributing back to your branch on github.com, you would have to set up an SSH key, and maybe in another video we'll look at that. I actually have a video uploaded on how do you set up the SSH key. The third important term is called fork. Well, actually, before we go to fork, let me also show you how you would clone a repository. So you can see here, right here in this tab, local, there are these URLs. So the URLs depend on how you want to clone it. If you want to clone using HTTPS, you would copy this and you would clone it wherever you are. You can run this command from your IDE, or you could go here to SSH and you can create your branch from the terminal, or right here from GitHub CLI. And you can see you can also open it right here in your GitHub desktop if you have that installed and connected with GitHub, or you can open it in Visual Studio, or you can download the source code as a zip file. Now let's look at fork. A fork is a new repository that shares code and visibility settings with the original upstream repository. So a fork is actually connected with your main branch, but a clone is not. So that's the difference between the clone and fork. Now, let's talk about another terminology, merge. What is merge? With a merge, you take all the changes from one branch and apply them to another branch. So if you're working on a feature request, for example, let's say I am making some changes on how the Credo scan works, I would create a branch, I would make some changes, and then create a pull request on this branch to merge it back into the main branch. Pull request, as I have said, in order to merge your changes from one branch to another, you would have to create a pull request. Remote is another important term that you should know. A repository that is stored on github.com, not on your computer. So right here, when you're looking at these repositories, they're on github.com, but if I had cloned it on my machine, that would be local copy. These are the remote source code. And then upstream. So upstream is the branch on an original repository that has been forked or cloned. So if I forked or cloned this on my machine or in another fork, this is my upstream. Awesome. Now that we have gone through all the different terminologies, let's talk about ownership. So you can own a repository individually. So you can see here, I am an individual owner of this repository, or you can share ownership with other people in an organization. So if this repository was part of an organization, I could add multiple owners as well. And in either cases, the access to repository is managed by the permissions. And we can look into permissions later, but I am going to keep this video focused just on talking about repository. Now, let's talk about collaboration. So you can use repositories to manage your work and collaborate with other people. Okay, now if you look here, you can see there are 2 contributors to this repository, right? If more people would contribute to it, they can become the contributors to this repository and then start creating pull requests from their branches to contribute. How do you collaborate on a repository? So you can use issues to collect user feedback, for them to report software bugs, or you can organize your tasks that you would like to accomplish through issues. And if you see here, this is where we would create issues linked to this repository. I can come here and create a new issue. Let's say I would call it add details to the scan logs. Add additional details, and I will submit this new issue. Okay, so this is one way to collaborate on GitHub repositories. So you can also use GitHub discussions where you can ask questions and answers, share information, make announcements, and conduct or participate in conversations about a project. If I come here to the settings and go through all of these settings, I want to show you how you would enable discussions. So right here, you can see I can check this and set up a discussion. And there we go. Now I have a discussion page set up for this repository. I am going to click on Start Discussion. And all the conversations, question answers that you want to have about this repo, you can have them all here. Amazing, right? Okay, now another way to collaborate is creating pull requests. You can use pull requests to propose changes to a repository, and we have discussed a bit more about pull requests, but let me show you exactly how you would create pull requests. So let's say I go here and I go to this branch and I make some changes here. Let's say create new file, and I'll call it the random changes test pr file.txt, and commit the changes. And I would not create a new branch. I'm going to commit directly to this branch. Okay, and now I will go back here, and you can see I see this notification. It has popped up to say, hey, you have made some changes, compare them with your main branch and create a pull request. So right here I am going to add some random description on this PR, And let me, not that it matters, I will correct the spelling and create the pull request. Okay, cool. Looks pretty good. Now that we have looked at collaboration, let's talk a little bit more about other properties of repositories. So you can see that all the collaboration happens right here in one view. Now let's talk about the repository visibility. So you can restrict who has access to repository by choosing a repository's visibility setting, and you can make it public or private, or if you are part of an organization, then you can make it internal as well. And right here in the settings, let's go down and find where the visibility setting is. Right here in this zone, you can see that this repository is currently public, but you can click here and change the visibility. So public repositories are accessible to everyone on the internet. Private repositories are only accessible to you, people you explicitly share the access with, and for an organization repository, certain organization members. The organization owners always have access to every repository created in an organization. And people with admin permissions for a repository can change an existing repository's visibility. So that was a quick overview of GitHub repositories. I hope you found it valuable, and go enjoy working with the GitHub repos.